Let's head back to Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business. Now, Ian was on this program yesterday. We had him on because I think he's a great mind to talk to in this country when it comes to economic matters. We're talking about the U.S.-Canada trade war. At the end of the interview, we didn't have enough time. We always want more time on the show. But the interview ends, and I go into the ear of my producer, and I say, Max, let's book Ian for tomorrow. So, Ian, that's why you're on today. I think it's the equivalent for this program to Johnny Carson telling the comedians to come back to the couch.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to just pick up on the thread that we started yesterday, okay? Yeah. And we were talking at the end of that interview about what Canada should do, right? And you were talking about becoming this natural resource giant.
Yes.
Now, along that thread is if the U.S. isn't going to be our dance partner, there are people saying, well, we should run into the arms of China. Wasn't lost on me last week. Anita Anand, our foreign minister, called China a strategic partner now, right? That's something we haven't heard before. Right. So what would you say here, Ian, on the notion of what Canada does now if we can't rely on the U.S.? What do we do? Let's talk about that.
Okay. So I'll do very big picture and then go straight to your question. So we're overwhelmingly a services economy, okay? Over 80%, actually probably 85% of all the jobs are in services. And when people say that, they think McDonald's or Tim Hortons. No. Anybody who works all day long in a tall building or a reasonably tall building in front of a computer, you're in the services sector. You're not growing potatoes. You're not fishing for fish. You're not building tractors. Okay, so it includes education. It includes you in broadcasting. You're in services. I'm in education. Healthcare is services. Government, pensions, banking. Anywhere you're in an office, basically. Anything in offices is downstream services. And it dominates all the Western countries, including Europe and U.S. and Canada. So what we're really talking about is who's going to be the secondary sector of our economy. And it historically it was manufacturing in Canada. It was about a third of GDP back in 1970 when Pierre Trudeau became Prime Minister. However, in the last third of a century, it has declined dramatically. It's down to 10%. Now, that's all manufacturing, not just autos. That's anybody who makes anything on an assembly line. It could be Windows assembly, for housing. So it's down to about 10%, and auto is down to 2%, by the way. That's how small the auto sector is.
Wow.
And, well, I'm not saying that all manufacturing is going to disappear, although a lot of the jobs will because of automation, which has been going on for the last 10, 15 years. Robots are just exploding, and the number of jobs in manufacturing goes down, 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 down. Okay, but my larger and so the other alternative to services, and I don't mean that we're going to get rid of services, that we're going to be services forever, but there's a secondary economy, and that's the resource sector. And so what I was arguing was we do not have a comparative advantage, which is the technical term used by economists. We don't have a comparative advantage in manufacturing. And people can wave their arms, and Doug Ford does it all the time, saying, we're the best, It's an empirical, factual question. There are three manufacturing superpowers in the world. One is called the United States. We all know that. The other is called Europe. We all know that, Volkswagen and Fiat and so forth. And the third one is China. Okay, so they all have very, very large populations compared to Canada. We're very tiny. We're smaller than California. And the key thing to everybody to understand about manufacturing is it's enormously capital intensive. Today, build one new auto assembly plant is $5 billion US. One plant. And to be a car company, you've got to have way more than one plant. And then on top of that, the R&D has gone through the roof. Last year, a serious study showed that in the auto only, 150 billion euros, that's 200 billion Canadian, to be in the auto industry. So if you liken it to a card game, you got to put billions on the table to play in that card game called autos. We are not big enough. We do not have the economies of scale. I didn't say we don't have smart engineers like the ones that worked at Bombardier, but we're not big enough. But in resource sector, the world, and by the way, those three regions all protect their economy from manufactured goods. They don't want foreigners to come in with their manufactured goods into China or Europe or America, as we're seeing. But in resource, it's very, very different. The whole world needs our resources. The Chancellor of Germany came over 2 years ago. He said, I don't want your cars. I want your LNG.
Yeah.
And others want our timber.
So Ian, then if we need to become a resource economy, right?
Yep.
We got to focus on resources.
As our second.
Yeah, that's right. After services, right? As you point out.
Yeah.
Then it says to me that the last country we need to run towards is China, because isn't China the true competitor on the resource front?
That's why I don't agree with them that we should be going to China. I've been teaching in China since 1997, full disclosure. I've been teaching in an MBA once a year. I'm going there in April. And I love going there. Wonderful, interesting country. My students are phenomenal, but they are not our partner. My God, they kidnapped 2 of our people. Okay?
Yeah.
And they cheat. Yeah. Everybody agrees they cheat, everybody. The WTO has said they cheat. The U.S. has found they cheat. The Europeans said they cheat. Okay, but there's, Europe has way over 500 million people. They need our LNG, and they need a lot of other things. So does other parts of the world, Southeast Asia, and the other countries over there. So they need our timber, they need our fish, they need our agricultural products, and so we are unbelievably well suited because we got lucky. Our geography just has a ton of resources. The big one is critical minerals. I believe we're number 4 in the world for reserves of critical minerals. And that's lithium and all the stuff in the green economy. And everybody needs that because only a handful of countries have critical minerals. We should have started developing them, 25 years ago. But for the last 50 years, governments in Canada have been demonizing the natural resource sector, saying it's low tech, it's dirty, it's hewers of wood, drawers of water, and all these slogans, which is not true because I study this industry. And by the way, I don't consult to it, so nobody can accuse me of consulting. Okay, but they use very advanced technology, drone technologies. They hire unbelievably sophisticated engineers. And the Stephen Gordon, who was many years a prof at Laval University in Quebec, published some wonderful analyses of the Canadian economy about 10 years ago or so. He showed that the resource sector, even though it's only about 12-15% of GDP, it accounted for something like 80% of the increase in our standard of living and prosperity.
Wow.
The marginal, to use the buzzword, forgive me, but the marginal contribution, let's use old-fashioned English, the profitability of natural resources is way, way higher than services or manufacturing, because there's this voracious demand around the world, and lots of countries don't have lots of natural resources. So we have a comparative advantage in natural resources. Now, I'm not trivializing it. We got to rebuild, as Carney is saying, we got to rebuild the transportation infrastructure. We need more railroads, we need more pipelines, that sort of thing. But we are very well positioned if we give up this, I call it fetish, for manufacturing. I'll call it manufacturing fetishism. And I'm talking about Premier Ford.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. No, and listen, you're making this case here, but, when I hear you talk, Ian, all I think about is, when you say we should have been doing this 25 years ago, what hope do we have to turn it around? Well, we can
still do it because the demand is not going away. I just want to do a shout-out for someone who I've always admired all my life. He's long dead now. Robert Bourassa was a brilliant, brilliant visionary. He saw the need for electricity years into the future, and it was his vision that led to James Bay. And Quebec is now the beneficiary because you're exporting billions of dollars of electricity to very thirsty upstate northeast U.S. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You'll be selling electricity to them to the end of time.
Yeah.
And we need to do that with critical minerals. We need to do that with timber. We need to do that with potash. We need to do that with nuclear fuel. The world needs more nuclear because of the green economy. I'm talking fuel, not bombs.
Yeah.
And so we are sitting on massive amounts, and there's a lot of foreign capital around the world, mining companies, that want to come in here and invest. Up until now, we've discouraged it with the various legislation of the last 10, 15 years. And Carney, I hope, is going to turn that around because we got to get rid of the barriers that are blocking us from developing our various natural resources, including, most importantly, critical minerals.
Ian, next time you'll headline the show. Thanks for coming on today.
Okay, thanks very much, Elias. Thank you.
Ian Lee right there from the Sprott School of Business. He's an associate professor there. When we return on the Elias Makos Show, have we entered the era of artificial intelligence propaganda?
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.